Hey guys, welcome back. So this is a new video today that we do about some more opening ideas, and once more my approach for this video will be to present some ideas about the most popular opening choices, especially in online chess. I think the average viewer of online chess videos will be amateur players kind of playing mostly online chess, seeking to counter some popular opening choices by their opponents. And so for this video, I chose to show you a really nice idea against perhaps the most popular opening line that black faces when playing online chess. So I'm wondering if you could guess which opening I'm talking about. So it's really d4, d5, bishop f4. Let's face it, everybody knows it by now. The London system became hugely popular. You might argue that it also became very popular at over the board chess. But in terms of online chess, we are talking hundreds of thousands of games being played maybe on a daily basis. Such a simple opening concept, just to play e3, c3, play a very solid pawn structure. And I was kind of wondering, what can I recommend against this opening line, at least to disrupt the white players in a blitz or a bullet game out of their comfort zone. And I came to this little move, bishop g4. Well, first of all, it's not such a surprising move, it's a developing move. We developed the bishop into the game. And, well, first of all, some good news about this move. I'm going to surprise you. If you play blitz or bullet games online, there is a pretty good chance that your opponent, without even thinking much or just pre-moving the move e3, will just lose his queen. Now, this is of course a very ridiculous statement, but according to the Lichess database, the move pawn to e3 was played in more than 10,000 games. Now, I'm not trying to say that you're going to win all of your games just like that by taking the white's queen. Of course, that would be a little bit optimistic, but yeah, there is a chance that, let's say if you play this move in like 100 games, maybe 5 or 10 of them, the opponents will just play e3 and you win instantly, which is a nice bonus. And that's like the first point. You don't allow them to play their automatic move of e3, starting to construct their normal, so to speak, London system setup. So the players that play the white side of this opening, when they face the move bishop g4, they're a bit confused. First of all, they cannot play their planned move of e3. Second of all, they can also not very comfortably play the obvious developing move knight f3, because if they do play knight f3, you can just take it. Which is, once again, it's not like a huge deal, it's not like white is losing or anything like that. But they don't get anything like a normal London system. Now they have to cripple their pawn structure, either by taking with the g-pawn like that, after which black's setup is like super easy to play. You can play like e6, followed by pretty natural developing moves. You do really well, you damage his pawn structure. It's not so clear what white will do about his king. Pretty unpleasant position already for white, if you ask me. Or white can take back with the e-pawn, but then he has not great of a central control. One kind of sample line would be something like e6, bishop d3. You can immediately counter white's center with the move c5. They kind of have to take, and you have super easy and smooth development, no issues for black. If you ask me, I might even slightly prefer to play the black side of this position. I have more pawns in the center. After safely castling my king, I can think about pushing my pawns even more and have a very nice position. So already on move number 3, you put white into a little bit of an awkward position, which is a very nice thing to do in a blitz or a bullet game where people have to kind of take very quick decisions.
If you would like to get attacking positions in every opening, then I suggest you this amazing course, 10 aggressive openings, blitz friendly. And here I'd like to show you the lessons inside the website. If you are logged in, then you are going to see this new menu profile. If you click it, you are going to see this page, and then you can click here, my lessons. From this one, you can see your available lessons, and if you scroll down, you can click here 10 aggressive openings with Asaf Givon. With this fantastic author, we create together the lessons, and you can see here one lesson after the other. You can see typical mistakes, after that how to start the game correctly, the best 10 moves, then you can see what are the aggressive openings, and then you are going to learn one lesson after the other. We have a lot of lessons there, and you can create a very solid and strong repertoire with white and black. And here you can see 2 of the free lessons that I already published them on YouTube. And last but not least, here you can download the PGN theory on your website. You can download the practice, the PGN files. You can see all of the games online on my website, or if you click here on practice PDF, then you can see the exercises in the PDF format, and you will be available to download this as well. You can set up these positions. You have a lot of interesting examples in each position from every single opening. I suggest you this fantastic course in order to start correctly in every single opening.
And now let's see what kind of options white has other than, losing their queen in one move, or playing a move like knight f3, which is also not ideal for their purposes. So many of them will play h3 just to chase away your bishop. Some of them might play f3. Now f3 is a move that I think black should be happy to see, generally speaking, because this move is a very committal move. It weakens the white king in the long run. It also kind of takes away this natural square for the knight on f3. You can basically drop your bishop both to f5 or h5. And once again, this is a very awkward position to play for a London system player as white. They cannot play knight f3. If they go e3, black can once again just keep his normal developing moves with e6. And there is no knight f3, so white has to figure out how to develop his knight. Some of them might play something like bishop d3, knight e2, but that's not the London system. Black is already doing pretty well, avoiding white's f3 square. Once again, we're not trying to kind of refute white's opening system, but we want to try to kind of cause them to have some little problems already on the very first moves, like to make difficult decisions. I think this is the main point of this whole system with bishop g4. So f3 is a not a bad move, but like a very committal move, like taking away some squares and weakening the white king in the long term. Not a move that a London system, like a typical London system player, would be happy to play. So h3 is a move that a London player is kind of happy to play anyways. We go knight, bishop h5. We keep the same pin on the pawn, so they still have the same problem of not being able to play pawn to e3. Or knight f3 would be just the same story, we would take it. And now white have to make a pretty big decision. If they play a move like g4, which is, by the way, statistically, is the most played move in this position, is pawn to g4. According to the Leech's overall database, g4 was played in the most amount of games. But once again, this is exactly the type of move that you want to see. This is a long-term weakening move for white. Black just drops his bishop back. And now the white king is kind of forever will be a little bit weak. Whether he chooses to castle short, then his king position will be already compromised. Or if he chooses to stay in the middle of the board, it's also usually not a very good idea. And here white can already play the move like e3, like his planned move. But he already paid the price. Those two pawn moves in the long term will be pretty awkward. Once again, black just continues normal development, pawn to e6. The next moves could be bishop d6, pawn to c5. Pretty standard moves developing. And believe me, in the long term, white will be very unhappy about making that g4 move, because at the end of the day, pawns can only move forward, and once you move them forward, you cannot go back. So white cannot just undo this move by going with his pawn back from g4 to g2. So he just has to live with the fact that his king is kind of weak forever. So pretty bad news for white. Like an opening went wrong for white. If white wants to be slightly more conservative and not weaken his king position, not by g4 and not by knight f3, you might want to play the move knight d2. I think perhaps this is the move that makes the most sense for a London system player, because it's a move that is still kind of part of their London system general setup, knight d2, knight f3, pawn to e3. You could also play the move knight d2 without the inclusion of the move h3, so if I go one move back, knight d2 is also possible in this position. With similar intentions to go knight f3, pawn to e3, and kind of keep the normal London system setuping. But against both moves, I recommend the same reaction, which is very awkward to meet, pawn to c5. Now, the great thing about the move pawn to c5 is that you attack the pawn on d4, and once again white would be very happy to play the move pawn to e3, but he cannot, since once again he loses his queen. And he can already play the move knight f3, but it's actually a pretty awkward move because black can just take on d4, and white's whole London system pawn center collapses in 1 second, and this position is already very good for black. He can just play knight c6, and well, white's pieces are very awkwardly placed. There is no pawn on d4. It's like a huge disaster for white. There is no London system. So after the move pawn to c5, once again, with or without the inclusion of the move pawn to h3, white could either like take on c5 or play the move c3. If they play the move c3, which I kind of think it might be like the move that most London system players will play, then it's a little bit of a subpar version of the London system for white, not really playing e3. And I think the easiest is just to take on d4 and play knight c6, because we take advantage of the fact that white did not play the move pawn to e3, so he cannot recapture with the e-pawn like usually they want to do in the London system. We force them to play knight f3, and in this position there is nothing wrong with just normal development of like e6, knight f6, bishop d6, etc. But the engine actually finds even more precise way to equalize the game immediately, playing bishop takes f3, which is a bit of a counterintuitive move because now white can recapture with the knight, but he actually spent a little bit of time to do that, and now black plays e6, kind of threatening bishop b4 check, which would be a very annoying move if white would just play the move pawn to e3. Black can play bishop b4 check, and white kind of has to drop his knight back. It's a little bit awkward, and black is already doing very well. He can consider playing moves like queen a5. or like even like knight f6, knight e4. So this position is already pretty dubious for white. You cannot move the same pieces so many times in the opening without getting punished. So in this position, going 2 moves back after e6, probably white's best move is just to stop black from going bishop e4 check. That would be pawn to e3. I'm sorry, pawn to a3. And that's basically one more tempo spent without developing pieces. So black can just play the move bishop to d6. Attacking the bishop on f4. If they just trade, then this is nothing special. Black just takes back and position is completely equal. And if they play this typical bishop g3 move in the London system, I think the most clever way for black to continue would be to play either knight e7, knight f5, kind of intending to eliminate that bishop on g3 without giving away the bishop on d6. Or you can achieve almost the same thing by going knight f6, knight e4. Both of them lead to a good position for black. And once again, no London system. Basically, all of these moves that you see right now, there is nothing like particularly wrong for white, but there is no London system. White cannot develop any serious attack against the black king. Probably the most kind of challenging move from theoretical point of view is d takes c5, because now black has to kind of realize how is he going to regain the pawn. You could play just you could just play pawn to e6, threatening to take on c5. But I think even a more challenging move is knight c6, threatening the move pawn to e5. White plays knight f3, and now you can play e6, threatening bishop takes c5. White plays knight b3 to defend his pawn on c5, but now once again we can seize the chance to take on f3, forcing white to make an awkward decision. Once again, recapturing the bishop while creating double pawns. So e takes f3, for example. And now we can use this typical tactic, bishop takes c5, knight takes c5, queen a5 check. For example, pawn to c3, queen takes c5, and basically black regains the lost pawn without really having any troubles, and the position is about equal. White has some small advantage of the 2 bishops, but at the same time black's development is very smooth. You could play knight f6, castles, and slowly start pushing the pawns in the center of the board. Okay, so going back to the initial position after bishop to g4, we can clearly see that white doesn't have like a clear way of fighting for the advantage. If I would be playing the white side of this, and if you're a London player yourself as white, probably like the best continuation would be the move pawn to h3. And in this position, perhaps the most challenging move from a theoretical point of view is pawn to c4, actually, trying to transform the game in a more Queen's Gambit style type of position. Knight c3, queen b3, trying to hit that pawn on b7. I'm not going to analyze this too much because really I think you will never see this move probably, or like very very seldomly. The only thing you need to be aware of is that in any case that white tries to attack both of these pawns, you always have to have the move queen b6 in response. So for example, a move like pawn c6 in this position would make sense to me. And if queen b3, you have this queen b6 move. We are always happy if white exchanges queens and we open up the a file, so everything is good here. And well, that's basically it. I recommend you playing the move bishop g4 in your blitz and bullet games online. Sometimes they would lose their queens and you lose, and like you win instantly. And sometimes they play other moves kind of after thinking for a while and being a little bit confused, and you still have a pretty decent position. And yeah, you basically have a good weapon against the London system. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and take care, guys.
Thanks for your time, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Here it's time for action. This is the initial page of my website, and here you can click Give me access to get access to free lessons. You can read this page, and if you scroll down, here you can add your name and your email. After that, you're going to take a free lesson how to avoid chess blunders. So, time for action is now, and you're very welcome to join my mail list.